Welcome to Tea Time with Shayleigh and Amber. I'm Shayleigh Evans, and I'm a life coach for pets and their people. I'm a truth seeker, and it's my passion to empower others and to give animals a voice along the way.
I'm Amber Leidick, and I've been a performance horse trainer focused on behavioral issues for over 20 years. My current passion is creating impactful in-person and online events and collaborating with professionals to be on the leading edge of positive change in the horse industry.
We are two friends invested in theta healing, belief system work, animal communication, and any resources that benefit human-animal partnerships. So turn up the volume and let's dive into the Great Awakening, brought to you by our horses. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. We are doing our first ever member spotlight from our Tea House membership, and we're so excited to be bringing this into the world. The idea behind it being highlighting our community and also everyday people who have amazing, beautiful, tumultuous stories to share with the world, and just kind of breaking down a little bit of that Instagram versus reality disconnect and highlighting the good parts and the bad parts and everything in between, because we know many feel alone in the journey sometimes and it can be hard to find the community. So we want to bring you into ours, and we're doing that first with Niki Brixius. Thank you, Niki, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We're stoked to get in on everything. So, is your profession in horses, or you have a profession outside of horses?
I have a profession outside of horses, and then I also do equine bodywork on the side. But yeah, my actual human profession, I call it, is I'm a farm business management instructor. So I work with farmers and their finances,
Awesome.
which is very
And
different from like horses.
but is it though? Because like you're managing things, and I feel like, it's so funny how people will say, I have this job outside of horses and I wish I could be in horses full time. But I'm sure that there are so many different things that you bring from that experience into the horse world, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. So like I look back at my other jobs and as like a child or even going through college and stuff, I could not talk to people. Like, I did not know how to talk to people. And then I worked retail for a while, and that actually really taught me how to communicate with people and actually listen to them better. So that was very interesting because even though I did not like the job, it actually taught me a lot to basically communicate with people. So I actually have appreciation for that now. Others, I'd be one of those people who would be sitting in a conversation and be like, I don't even know what to say, so I'm just going to stop talking very awkwardly.
And ironically, you're our first member
Yeah.
to come on the podcast. Talk about it. Talk to everybody about it.
Right?
It's so funny because I started out that way too. And I started out being an extreme introvert, and I had a neighbor who was like, "You should come wait tables." And is my internet okay? Because it keeps saying that's unstable. So let me know if you guys can't hear me.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
But okay. My neighbor was like, "You should come wait tables." And so I was like, "Oh, I'll give it a try."
Oh.
And the very first time I was supposed to go talk, she was like, "Go ask them what they want to drink." And I was like, "Uh-uh, I don't want to." It's scary. And I stood behind her and I didn't even want to say hello to anybody, which I know for people who know me now and who have listened to the podcast, they're like, "You've got to be freaking kidding me. This woman doesn't shut up. She's like social with everybody." But it's wild how our outside experiences, oh, did we lose her?
Yeah,
What's
dude.
going on here? What's going on here?
Dropping everyone right now. I was like, oh, I just keep whoop. There she is.
The internet is a wild place right now. It's okay. We'll just have to edit her a little bit. So, um, how about your journey with horses? It doesn't even have to be horses. Like you can talk about any animal that has been pivotal in your life, but tell us a little bit about your horse journey in general.
Well, so I didn't grow up with horses. I started riding when I was 6, though. And the only reason my mom decided to do riding lessons is because I would not stop pestering her. And I kept talking about wanting to ride horses. And so she finally decided and broke down. She's like, okay, I'll get you riding lessons. So when I was 6. And that started this whole journey, obviously. She thought it was a phase of my life and that, after 5 lessons or something, I'd be done and want to get out of it. But it actually has been a very important journey to me because they have been involved in so many different aspects of my life and like a lot of the things I've gone through in my life. And it's always been something I've looked forward to. So they just, I mean, they're just very important to me and the connection with them. Because like I'll admit it, like I grew up in that kind of, oh, the horse, you need to show him who's boss and this and that. And it just never ever felt right to me. I felt like there was more to it, more of a spiritual aspect to it. And as I grew and got to experience horses more and be involved in the industry more and work for a couple trainers and stuff like that, you start to see a different side of it that there is this like spiritual side, there is this connection side. There's so much more to it than I ever thought it would be, I guess. But like I said, they've just always been a part of it and I've always enjoyed them. And the 3 we have now are actually, it's kind of funny because they're just very unique and special in their own ways, but they have really helped me um progress not only like my horse side, I like to say, but also like my personal side and my growth in the spiritual sense, I guess, or just understanding myself better.
Do
I
you
love
have
that.
like a,
Before we get into them, oh, sorry, Amber, go ahead.
God, this is so complicated. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go
It's
ahead.
just fun. There's just a lot of energy into it. So we're both like, oh, okay, like let's hear about your story. Well, but before we get into your 3 that you have now, oh, I want to hear about your first horse.
That's what I was gonna ask.
So that's an interesting. Okay, so the very first horse I ever got was this little Appy mare that I was 10 years old, and my mom felt so bad. I was actually sick with autoimmune disease at that time. And so my mom wanted to like get me a horse really bad. So she bought me this 3-year-old that wasn't even broke. Mom don't know what she's buying, and it's like you don't buy that for a 10-year-old. So honestly, that horse, her name was Jubilee, and she was at our farm for a while, and they had her at the trainer, but it was not like the best first horse experience. So she ended up you do what you do. Like you said that on other podcasts. Like you just know what you know at the time. You do what's right for you at the time. And I was like, she stayed around for like a year or two, but we just ended up selling her at an auction and she kind of moved on. I guess if we had another horse after that, but honestly, she also didn't stick around very long. She actually ended up having to be put down for like laminitis. And probably the next horse after that I had kind of feels more like my first horse. His name was JJ. He was this little shaggy pony, and he was like 12'2" Welsh pony. And oh my gosh, he was a little spitfire though. Like he was taught me how to ride really well, and he was a lot of fun, and I just really enjoyed him at that time in my life. I kept him for many years, and I ended up I actually had him through college and I ended up selling him, or I actually didn't even sell him. I gave him back to the people I bought him from so that their kid could ride him. And he ended up living like another 10 or 15 years, almost 30 some years old by the time he passed away. So it was actually really cool because I got to experience, they had this horse, I got to experience him for a while. And he really taught me how to grow and be a part of it and be a better rider and stuff like that. And a lot of hardcore lessons of being dumped. But it was really neat to see him go back to the people that I had, brought him from and that they got to use him for their kids and um just kind of see that happen for them too. But I'd have to say, actually, my mare Lady after that was probably one of the first horses I had purchased or brought home that was it was much more emotional. and it was a deeper sense, I guess. Like the bond I had with her was very different than I've had with other horses. And she was very special to me. She was just this little sorrel mare. She was cuter than heck, I thought, but she had her own ideas in life too. But she was just amazing because I got her and she wasn't really that well broke and I didn't know what to do with her. And I was working at a horse barn and the trainer told me, he's like, bring her over, I'll help you with her. And he was super nice to me because I was still in high school and kind of paying for everything myself. And he really helped me with working with her and training her and just getting us to a point where she turned out to be a really great horse. And it was actually probably one of the coolest moments was that I used to like ride her bareback and bridleless, and then I'd actually start jumping on her, and I'm not a jumper by any means, but it was just so much fun. And just to have like that connection with her that all I need to do is just shift and she would just move for me and just kind of having that special awareness. Um, she ended up with laminitis really bad later on, and I ended up putting her down, but honestly, she was a very, very special little mare. And I still think about her actually because um, she was there through a lot of stuff too that I was going through at the time. And so it just kind of made it more special also um, that she was just this little spicy thing too. But she moved a lot with me. Like I live in Minnesota, grew up in Minnesota, and we moved to New York, lived out there for a while and came back and moved to Montana and stuff like that. So she kind of traveled with me a bit too. So
I love that. That's awesome. I think JJ probably had a big hand in that. I was just telling someone recently how um when when we don't know that much and they know that they're here as our foundational teachers, we can get away with so much. It's like the more you know, the less you're able to ride, the less you're able to do. There's all these lessons that are in place where they're like, okay, we know that you know better. And now I'm not just going to buck you off. I'm going to go lame or I'm going to, do this and that. And as we grow older, we start looking for answers. And those foundational horses, and I'm curious if you had like a foundational horse like this, Amber, because my foundational horse like taught me for a little while too and then moved on. And I kind of feel like when horses are meant to, you know, I think part of the reason why they're able to handle us being little kids and growing up on them and making mistakes and stuff is because that's part of their service to humanity. They come here knowing that. So when you start to quote outgrow that, they really do find ways to move on. Is that what happened with you as well, Amber, or do you feel like you kept your first horse?
My first horse stayed, yeah, I got him when I was 11, he was 9. And same thing, like I tormented my mother and I tormented her, and every Christmas and every birthday I'm like blowing out candles. I'm like, by the way, I wish for a horse. And Shayleigh and I have talked about it, I think in like manifesting magic, where I didn't know that I was manifesting at the time, but I would look through in the olden days, the classified ads in the newspaper, they would have horse
Oh, me
ads.
too.
And I would just
yeah.
obsess. Like I would obsess and like I would look through them as if I had the money or anyone had the money to buy these horses. Like, and my mom had a friend that was close with her that she worked with that was a horse trainer. Thank God, because she helped her find my first horse. But he was half Arab, half quarter, and he dumped my ass. I you always hear the stories that people tell, oh, when I was young. And I was just so free and I wasn't afraid of anything and I could just go on the trail and I was never worried. We used to gallop. I was like, sure, like I would go to the shows and I would clean up because he was just like, he could go all the ways. We go English, Western, bareback, dollar bill classes, like everything. And he would just win everything. But if he would try to go on the trail, it was like we were good for about 30 minutes and then like a switch would flip and he would like paw violently, run backwards, run me through trees. Like the first time I ever fell off a horse was at a dead gallop. And I remember saying in my head, okay, I'm just gonna trust. My first lesson. I'm just gonna trust that everything is okay. And I think it was before Carrie Underwood's like Jesus take the wheel, but it was definitely a Jesus take the because we were riding through this forest of eucalyptus trees that was on the other side of the cow pasture, and there was a path, right? And then everyone was just trotting. It wasn't like a dead gallop. People were just moving. And he was like, I want to go. And I was like, okay, fine. I trust you. I trust Jesus, take the wheel. And he veered off the path and under a very low branch, which proceeded to knock me like scrape me off like it was nothing, and that was the first time I fell off. And he stopped with everyone. And I just remember having to be led on a lead rope because he was jigging sideways so bad. But I think with him, it was like that lesson of like, yes, but I am who I am, right? Like I had to just accept that's who he was. And at the very end of his life, at like 32, I didn't want to put him down and have him taken from the tallow truck or whatever. And I ended up calling the vet to have them out. My friend had a very large cattle ranch. We were putting both of our first horses down at the same time. This horse jigged, okay, sideways as we led him out to transition. And the vet was following us. And I'm thinking, this vet probably is like, this horse is totally fine. Like, and it was like his last, like, like
His
we had
last
that.
hurrah.
Yeah, he was like, that's right. It was very much time. But like when that was happening, I was like, you have to be joking me. Like, he's going out just the way he came into my life. And it was just like, okay, well.
And they'll do that. I
I
mean, they
know.
will do that. And well, hearing your guys' stories actually makes me realize I was a very fortunate child because I did not get bucked off. I did not fall off. I was so taken care of. Like, I'm thinking, when was the first time I got bucked off? Because my childhood pony never bucked me off. I rode a bunch of lesson horses, and I was that kid at the lesson barn who like worked, it was similar to you, Nikki, where you're like finding someone who's gonna help you, and I couldn't afford the lessons and stuff like that. So I was like, can I, work for you and pick up manure and stuff like that? And so I
Yeah, me
became her little
too.
working student. And I was notorious for riding the horses who were a little more difficult, and they loved me and they were so good to me. And I'm thinking back, like I rode some pretty like interesting characters back then, and I was not a good rider by any means, but I was really tapped into my heart and soul back then, and I was so driven by my love for them. And if I think back to the first time I got bucked off, it was when I was a bratty ass high school kid, and I started to get into that entitled phase, and I started to decide this is what my horse does for me. And then I was getting bucked off literally every other day. So, um, what like what would you say your biggest turning point was? And that can be anything, like whatever comes to mind, like after getting Lady and like having the horses you have now. Was she your turning point, or was there something else that kind of shifted your mindset into just this space that you're in now?
I would say Two Spot was that horse for me, which is one of the geldings I have now. Um, and so I got him. I was living in South Dakota at the time, and Lady was already kind of like, she'd already had laminitis. She was still living back in Minnesota, and I knew she wasn't rideable anymore. And so I was kind of looking for a new horse, and I was like, well, I've never started a horse, but I mean, I've done tons of groundwork, got him ready for the trainer. The trainers would put the first rides on him and stuff. And I was like, it would be kind of fun to have a horse I could start. And so ended up finding Two Spot. Somebody I worked with told me like, oh, we just picked up this yearling. He's not halter broke or nothing, but you're kind of looking for a horse if you want to come see him. And I went and saw him, and the first time I saw him, I walked in the pen, and all I did was trot around the pen, like wouldn't even come see you, nothing. It was just like, oh, this could be a little bit more than I thought it was gonna be. But I kind of like debated about it, and then like I had heard other people were looking at them, so I like went and called them the next day. I'm like, okay, I'll buy them. Like, but like so it was kind of funny because I was like, that's what triggered me to like do it finally. But it was going through the whole experience of like halter breaking him and kind of like being the first to touch him and have those interactions with him. And I wouldn't say like, he grew up not that far away. It was just like he kind of was like locked in a pen because he was the only colt and like they kind of secluded him. And um so it was just, I don't know, it was just kind of different. And he was, once he like understood, like I was there to like teach him and like be a part of his life, not just like, oh, you can't do it this way or whatever. Um, he actually is just the sweetest gelding I could have imagined, the sweetest little horse I could have had at the time. But I will say, what you don't know is what you don't know, and there were plenty of mistakes I made over the years with him. But it was pretty awesome because somebody helped or came out and helped me put like my first rides when he was ready, and we put our first couple rides on him and took him out to like trail riding and stuff, and he was just always super easy and just great. And I will say, like, at one point, I kind of lost my own confidence, believing, like, I can't do this. I'm not a colt starter or whatever. I don't train horses and stuff. And I did send him to a guy for 30 days out there, and he's like, oh, he was the easiest horse I've ever trained in my life. Like, he's like, I don't know what you did with him, but. And so, I mean, that was good, like, to hear that. Like, I could do something right that aspect, I guess. But, yeah, and our journey, though, has been very interesting and emotional and so many things because I got to a point where I kind of lost some confidence and stuff with him, and I was to the point where I was like ready to sell him. And the guy that had where I was boarding at the time was the same guy that had put the 30 days on him, and he's like, if it's something fixable, why sell him? He's like, he's a super nice horse, just keep him. Like, he's like, we can make this work. And I'm glad we did. And then later on in his journey, though, is when he's been going through some health stuff, which he's still struggling with a little bit now. But it's not just been like that, having that horse I could halter break for the first time and ride for the first time and be a part of that journey. But it was the making decisions of his future of what do we do? Do we try surgery? Do we not try surgery? Um, is he just a pasture pet? You know, I think he has a lot more to teach me yet, in a lot of different ways, and I've learned so much from him because of him. Just like, trusting my gut. Because, like, honestly, that's probably one of the biggest things he's taught me is just to like trust myself now that I think about it. Um, because when he did start having health issues, everybody told me just put spurs on and make him do it. And I was like, this was a horse that would be as forward as could be. Like, he would trot all day long if you wanted him to. I mean, he'd walk because he thought he had to. But I mean, if you asked him to move, that horse moved all day long. And it actually started with him not wanting to move out for me. And I was like, something's wrong. And it took me over a year to get some decent answers. But it was such a struggle and a journey, and I do appreciate the fact that he chose to do that for me to teach me those lessons because if he hadn't, would I have stood up to the people who said just put spurs on and just make him do it? I mean, I'm sure you could have at some point until he decided to buck you off, but he's he's tried to teach me that I need to listen better sometimes or trust my gut, I guess. And it's it's just like one of those things like you get it at the right time, I think. And that's what you get when you need it, right? So he's definitely been one of those, I feel like. But he was the one that I started pursuing a different way of looking at horses and how to interact and train my own horses too. Instead of being like, oh, you need to do this, it's like I remember somebody tried to handle him for me and they were more of a demanding type and saying like, oh, he moved a step, whack the halter and get after him. And he just about like, oh my God, didn't know what to do with all that because he's just not used to it either. So but that was very eye-opening because I was like, he's never done that for me before, and I've had him like 3 years already. But then to see how that interaction with a different human with a different energy changed his energy so quickly and kind of almost, you know, I don't know if I want to say made him afraid, but a different reaction to him, kind of made me realize like how different they are in different hands and different people. And And I will say I was always one of those people, even though, like I said, JJ moved on in his life when it felt like it was time for him to move on. I was always one of those people who's like, I'm gonna keep my horse for the rest of its life and it's never gonna leave and da 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 da. And it's funny because probably the last, well, since I moved back to Minnesota, which was in 18, um, I kind of said to my horses, I was like, I will keep you if you want to stay. And I tell this to every horse I actually bring home now. And I tell them, I'm like, you can stay in my life. You can be a part of my life. You can be here forever if you want to. That's your choice. But, and I love all of my horses we have, but I'm like, if you feel the need to leave or you feel like you need something better or if you feel like you need a different experience, then you just have to let me know it's time to let you go. And so, I think that also, and some people might not understand this, but I think it also allows them a sense of freedom because then they have a choice. And I told them that I would respect that choice no matter how hard it is on my side to respect it. And I'm sure I'd be emotional with some of them if they chose to leave, but I just I feel like they still need to have a choice too. And I know like if they really want to leave, they'll find a way. I mean, they'll make it happen. But I just feel like they still have to have that freedom of their own choices. And I mean, they'll make it, but I think granting it to them kind of gives them a respect in the sense of that you're respecting any wishes they have to, or at least trying to.
Yeah, I think that that shift, I mean, did you have a specific mentor when you were going through that process, or were you sort of just feeling your way through it? Because I feel like we talked to people and they're like, I had no idea. I think it's mostly like the professionals, trainers that have gone from like the way they learned and then shifted into something else, and they're kind of like feeling blindly through it. Like, I don't know. I was just like, I didn't have anyone to show me what that could look like. Do you feel like you did, or do you feel like you just sort of intuitively like felt your way through that?
I would say like at first especially I just intuitively like felt my way through it. Like it was just like this isn't right. This doesn't feel right anymore. There's got to be a different, a different angle, a different way. There's got to be a different way of looking at it. And then you almost get caught up, I felt like for myself anyways. You get caught up between that line of do you ever push them or you know what I mean? Like you get to like
Constant
the
line.
extreme. Yeah. And you're like trying to find like that gray line of like, okay, where's this balance? Because I always say like I respect my horses, but I also expect them to respect me. So I was like, okay, so like you have to like think about this, right? So like then it starts making you define like what is respect?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, respect to me is like having this boundary that, like even if you're mad at me, we can still play nice. Like, you know what I mean? And then like I remember I was talking to somebody and trying to help them with their horse, and I'm like, I could see they were having almost like a leadership type issue. And I was like, well, what is a leader to you? And they're like, somebody who bosses me around. I'm like, that's your problem. Like, that's what you
Yeah.
think a leader is. Like, no, a leader should guide you. A leader should like encourage you to expand. A leader should do, it shouldn't be about bossing you around or telling you what to do. And if that's how you feel, I mean, if you were that horse, do you want to be bossed around and told what to do? That's what the, boss horse is doing or whatever. But it kind of starts making you question more of those things. And I will say eventually, I mean, I was like feeling my way out, reading some different things, looking through some different things. Um, did some different, trainings over the years or, watching videos and stuff. And I did eventually stumble on Warwick stuff. And so I did follow Warwick Schiller. I still like, follow some of his stuff and Amy Skinner. I'm part of their, like programs and watch them. Um, and I will say I thought I could read a horse until like I watched some of Warwick's videos and he's like I was like, wow, I totally missed that. Like and so it kind of like opened that expansive of like, oh, how much have I been missing? And like how much have I not seen that somebody like Warwick is pointing out? And I was like, oh, now it's so obvious. I mean, but even though I thought I was like good at watching their body language or doing this or that, I realized how much you missed. And I guess I'm one of those people who probably will never follow anything to a T, but I like to take the collective benefit of everything and try to apply it the best I can to everybody or whatever situation I'm in. Um, And I'll say with like even the bodywork piece of it and doing some of that, that's really opened me up to I used to like when I first did my training see bodywork as like this is what I do to the horse. And now I try to see it as what does this horse need from me? Or what can I provide for this horse? And so it's kind of funny because like I'll walk up to every horse and I'll be like, you just tell me what you need. And if that's not what you want, okay, we'll find a different way of doing it. Like, or find something else that you want or need. So that's really changed my perspective too, because I mean, just learning how to read some of those more subtle signals like Warwick shows, like that helped me even in body work too, of reading some of my horses and like, okay, they might not be showing or biting me, but you can definitely see it like in their ears or in their eyes and just different things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah. I wish I had a mentor. It'd
I
be
think
so much easier, I think.
I know, but I feel like the lessons get into, I don't remember when or what, because I think we've talked to Tara several times, but her story with her mare and her feeling her way through it. And she was like, you know, it would have been so much faster if I had someone telling me what to do. But I think like the beauty in that is that how much more deeply embedded the lessons that you learn through it are when you're like struggling through it. Like that struggle is like the actual gift. And I love that the questions that started to be asked, because I think that's the key. It's like when you shift from how do I make my horse do this to like I wonder why this is happening, or like what is your idea of a leader. It's like I taught that's a conversation I have to have all the time, or had, where it was like you go first, like that you're a leader, you go first and you make it the path safe for the follow up and the choice to come with you if that feels good. And it's like kind of mind blowing for people, because even with body work, the thing that I would connect is like, do you know what it feels like to be touched by somebody, like laying on a table, like, and having someone put their hands on you? Like, you don't, from the human side, sometimes I think when there's a disconnect with like the body work or the handling in general, or saddling or brushing or anything, it's like people just forget because we're taught a certain way. This is just what you do to the horse, right? You saddle them, you brush them. These are the things that need to happen for them to be cared for or done the right way. And then you start to realize, well, like, but no one's doing that to me. And if they are, how does it feel? It makes you want to get the fuck away from them, like, as fast as you can. And so once you like bring that into someone's awareness, I think it's like, how do you like to be touched? You know what I mean? By a body worker, by a chiropractor. Do you even like chiropractic? Like, do you like it when a stranger walks up to you and touches your face? Like, most people are like, fuck no, I don't want that. But it's so crazy that we just do that to horses all the time without even thinking about it. But I think that's like the key thing, is when you start asking that question, like, oh, but how do I feel about that? And then bringing in the empathy and the curiosity is what I think really helps shift the like dynamic between people and horses. And it is breaking that stigma of you have to tell them you're the leader, you're the boss. Sure, at some level, but they can also be the leader too. It's like the reciprocity within the relationship, right? That I think people get a little stuck on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I
Definitely.
would agree with that too. Like you don't always have to lead them. Sometimes they need to lead themselves and have the confidence to do it themselves too.
Mhm.
So that brings us into your current adventure, which we've been celebrating with you in the tea house. Talk to us about that, your current mounted shooting adventure, and like all the
I
lessons
want to do
in
that a little
whatever you want to
bit.
bring forward.
So I will say this has been like years in the making because I originally signed up for a clinic and it was with two spot and then I was starting to have all these health issues and I finally had to like bow out and be like, no, he can't do this right now. Like he's just not there to do it. And so it's kind of been on the back burner for a few years while I was trying to figure him out and trying to figure out what he's doing. And then I had bought another, so we ended up putting my husband's horse down in that meantime. And I got him a new horse, which is Aussie, that we have now that I've actually been using for mounted shooting. So he's not really my horse, it feels like most of the time, but he's been really good for me. But so I probably have to go back to like last fall. Last fall, Two Spot was teaching me another lesson and bucked me off. And it actually started with Aussie. So Aussie started bucking, and then Two Spot started bucking. And then Aussie stopped, Two Spot stopped, and Two Spot started bucking again, and that time I fell off. But I ended up, that's when I tore the tendon in my hand, and then I was actually basically unable to use my hand. Well, so that happened in August. Yeah, there's like a whole story now. So that happened in August, and I didn't know what I'd done. I went to the ER and I thought it was broken or dislocated, and they basically told me it was just swelling. And they sent me home, and they're like, "Well, if it doesn't get better, like go to the hand people." And I was like, or the specialist, and I was like, "Okay, like is like 3 days, 2 weeks, like what are you thinking?" They're like, "Yeah, you know." And I was like, "No, I really don't." Like what am I
Why are
supposed
you
to know?
asking?
And so finally decided like, okay, it's been 2 weeks, it hasn't moved, it still doesn't move, like I should probably go in. And so I go to this one first-hand specialist because I could get in like, I don't know, it was like in a week or something. So I got in with him. He looks at my hand. He goes, "Yeah, yeah, this isn't for me. I don't do this stuff." And he's like, "But I'll send you to the other hand specialist." And I was like, "Oh, okay. This is the things she does." And I was like, "Okay." Well, it was kind of funny because he's like, "I'll send you up with a sticky note to the office." And I was like, "Okay." And he wrote her name and he said ASAP. And when I brought it up there, the guy at the desk, he's like, "What do you think ASAP means?" And I was like, "Well, I would assume as soon as possible." Like he was hoping today or maybe this week, you know. He's like, "Well, her next opening is in October." And I was like, "Well,
Oh,
he
dang.
was thinking like now, like he was hoping this afternoon." And I ended up getting in like 2 days later, but um, so yeah, so then we had to go through like getting an MRI, and by the time we were gonna have surgery, I was already like a month out from the initial injury, and what I had done at that time, I realized is I had torn um one of the tendons in my pinky finger. And she was like, "At this point, it's going to be a two-stage reconstruction. We'll have to put rods in there. Then we'll have to pull a tendon from another part of your body and then reattach it." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, this ought to be interesting." I thought it was going to be like 4 or 5 months total. Well, just even after the first surgery, I mean, I didn't get back to doing normal life things until the middle of January. That's when they gave me the go to be able to do stuff. But it was really interesting because we had to she had a like I saw her on a Thursday and she goes, "Well, if I had these rods, I would do surgery tomorrow, but you're gonna have to wait till next week when I get them." So I ended up waiting till next week. I ended up having the surgery. Um and I was super lucky. So my mom had come with me to the appointment because it's always nice to have somebody else there to hear what you don't hear kind of thing. And she just looked at me and she goes, "Well, we're gonna hope for one surgery." I was like, "I hope so, because I really don't want to have two and like, how many months of therapy with this." So I ended up getting super lucky. I was over a month out by the time I had surgery, and usually by then, like they can't find your tendons typically once it's been that long. But I came out really lucky. They were able to reattach my tendon right away, and I only needed one surgery instead of two. So I
Were
was
you
very
lucky or did you call it in? You know?
I called it in. Like I was like, I
Yeah.
just want one surgery.
Yeah.
I
Let's
don't
clarify
need.
that real quick, please. Okay. Call your power back for a second.
We
I
don't
was
do
like,
luck around here.
Yeah, and you've been practicing that because I remember you talking about the pinky. I can't remember if it was in Manifesting Magic or it was something else, but it was like we talked about it either in the membership or something, and you were like, "You guys, is my pinky gonna heal or is it not? I can't even pick things up. Like this thing is crazy." So you totally called that in because you've done so much energetic work around it. But anyway, okay, go to the
yeah.
mounted shooting now.
Yeah. Well, so like I have to say like that whole thing like just it taught me a lot because like it taught me
Yeah.
like like having surgery and recovery, and like it made me actually think about Two Spot a lot because he had a cyst removed out of his leg, and like just kind of made me understand relating it to like even after the injury it's been how many months, and like shooting the other weekend, like I shot balloons, and um I noticed like my hand was really sore for like 2 days, and I was like, I just think about how I apply that now to like everything. Like, oh, okay, my horse
hmm
had injury. Now I can actually understand maybe what they're going through better. But anyway, so like came around January, the clinic came up, and I was like, high or hell water, I am doing it this year. Like, I will find a horse, I will do this. And of course, I'm like, oh, maybe Willow will be ready. And Willow was not. So I was stuck with Ozzy, who doesn't like to do anything other than walk down the trail. Absolutely hates arena work. And I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna get myself into here, but we're gonna try it anyways. And so it was just so cool because we went to the clinic. The first part of the clinic is just learning gun handling and practice shooting and running patterns on the ground by ourselves before we even introduce our horses to it. Um, so we go through the clinic and, we're like, I mean, I felt like a little kid, to be honest, because I was like, we were getting like to the shooting part, or practicing like walking our patterns and like getting our, arms right to like practice like basically muscle memory to make sure we're shooting at like 3 o'clock or later. And I was like super excited and I was like, oh, like I'll go first. I'll go first. I'll do this. Like I was like a little kid. I was just super, I was having so much fun. And I ended up texting my husband like halfway through the day when we are having lunch. I'm like, I found my new sport. Like, I haven't done like any horsey sports for like or any horsey stuff. Like everyone would ask me like what I did, and I'm like, I trail ride, but I just like to really have like a nice broke horse. Like I like a horse that can side pass and do this and that. But basically, I was just trail riding at that point. And I was like, I don't really want to barrel race anymore. I don't really want to game anymore. Like that stuff don't interest me. I was like, really the only two things that had been interesting me lately was endurance riding or mounted shooting. So I was like, I'm gonna pursue mounted shooting this year. And I was just like, it was finally like something I really wanted to get involved in. Like I just fell in love. And I shot off of Ozzy a couple times at the clinic and he was doing really good with it. And by the end of the day, he just couldn't care. Like he's like, oh, you want to shoot guns? You go shoot guns. Like I'm just gonna tote around. And so we ended up doing like I started like taking lessons with Taylor who put on the clinic, and then I ended up doing another clinic with her where I met a couple other people and did a couple of night shootings. And I couldn't believe how nice these people were. At least in my experience of horse showing, people are not always nice. And they are like, don't want to talk to you. And so I've always felt kind of like an outcast when I go to horse shows because I was like, I could go to the same horse show 100 times and I probably still would never have met anybody to talk to. But I went to the first shooting clinic or shooting the other weekend, and it was just awesome. Like I met so well, I'd met some of the people either through like some of the nights we shot or some of these clinics, and so it was really nice to actually know a couple people too. But everybody was just so nice, and it's just like even though they're like competing, but at the same time, they're like, if you beat me, like I'm so proud of you and so happy for you, and I'm so glad you could do it. And I just really felt kind of like that family sense, but also just the achievement of just doing it. Um, I was so proud of myself for actually just like committing to it and doing it because I can be one of those people who is like, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna commit to it, but then like 80% of the way, I kind of like drop off the radar. So I don't always finish what I start, I guess is the good way of putting it. But I was just really happy. I like kept pushing myself through and just saying like, nope, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. And we did do it. And we do have a couple more shoots coming up this summer, but I was just so happy. And like I was like kind of it was really funny because like I was having so much fun and enjoying it, but then on Sunday I had you shoot 4 times, and by that point, Ozzy was figuring out that if he goes in the arena, he trots for 30 to 60 seconds and then he's done and gets to go back to the trailer and eat. So he was super happy about this. But it was really funny because like halfway through the day on Saturday, he started seeing all the balloons on the ground that were shot, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, what are those?" But so he was doing really good and he was really getting into it. But then it was like we had a more it looked like a more complicated pattern. Um, so it got kind of like it was funny because it got kind of in my head. And even though like me and Ozzy were just beginning, we're just trotting these patterns, so we're not going very fast. But I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this pattern. It's got like 5 cross shots, and then you gotta, do this and that. And I was like, oh, it's so different. It looks so hard. And I'm like, and I've shot clean all day. So if I can shoot clean one more round, at least I can win a check for clean shooter, which is kind of my goal for the whole weekend, I guess. Because like we had a clinic the weekend before, and it was like really the first time we had shot full loads off of him because we were shooting like half black powder loads off of him. So you get used to it before you make a really big sound. And we were shooting patterns that day, and I was like, man, we shot clean most of the day. Like maybe we can actually like shoot clean at one of these. So that was kind of my goal for the whole weekend. And he got to that fourth one, and I was like, wow, I just couldn't believe how much my mind shifted to this nervousness and like being insecure because I really wanted to shoot clean just to prove myself I could shoot clean. But we did, and he handled it really well, and he actually started trotting faster than he normally does. So I was like, he's figuring this out, that going home we get to be done. So. But yeah, I'm so grateful that he, was willing to do it for me too, because honestly, I was kind of going through after getting bucked off last fall and the hand surgery and everything. I was going through a little bit of this I would say like I would get like frozen. Um Like it was kind of funny because so the first time it happened, like I felt like somebody's horse, like it was trotting off, and like I just didn't feel like they had full control, which is kind of like how this whole situation happened with the bucking. And I could just feel like my heart beating fast and like this panic attack rising in me. And I was like to the point where I was like gonna get off, and I was riding Ozzy, and he's like, you could just feel him be like, what the hell are you doing? Like everything's fine. Like I'm just gonna walk. She can go trotting off whatever she wants to do. You know what I mean? And I was just like, just breathe through it. Like you'll be fine. Just breathe through it. But I mean, it still catches me sometimes because like even the other day I was trail riding him and on our property, and he just started walking faster home, and all of a sudden I could feel my chest tighten, my breath, get tight, and I was like, "You're fine." He's just walking faster, like he's not even running. But so for me, it was like a pretty big deal to like actually go out and do something like this again and kind of get past that and work through it again. So, yeah.
Well, we were proud of you and happy to celebrate you and the membership too. It's been like I was so glad that you posted it because we were like, what? We need to have her on the podcast. Like this is, it is inspiring to come from a place of like, being afraid, not knowing if you're gonna get back to it, and then being able to go out there and do it with him is so cool. And also, I love like the honesty and the just awareness that you have of what's going on in your body because you've been practicing that for a while now, like just calling that in and becoming more aware. And sometimes I think we say this a lot that all our horses really need is for us to be honest in the moment. And we can't be honest unless we're aware of how that's going. So it's just really cool to hear your story come full circle and you be able to, have that awareness, then have that honesty, and then also having that conversation with him where you're feeling that energy of like, girl, don't worry, I got you. Like, this is fine. It's all good, because it's coming from a place of joy and that energy of you being like, oh, I'm so nervous. I'm not gonna be able to do this cross pattern is just showing him more how much you care and also being excited. And he's like, oh yeah, we're in it together then, because now you're both vulnerable on different levels and you're able to support each other, which is so cool. So I guess I just have like one last question, and then I asked for I like connected with your little herd right before this, and I was like, give me like a phrase, like a one-liner to either like title this episode or like what's your like gift or your message to the world or whatever. And it's cool listening to everything that you've said about them because their little one-liner was choose your hard. And I was like, oh, that's fascinating. It's going to be cool to see how the conversation ends up unfolding. And the sentiment behind it really just felt like you really do have a choice. Like you're choosing your lessons, you're choosing what you perceive as difficult, or you're calling in, whatever can be hard or not. So I guess my last question, unless Amber, you have anything to add, would be what do you wish you could have heard back in the day, that you like from where you are now? Because so many of us would be like, if I only knew then what I know now. Is there like a piece of advice that you would have given yourself, or do you wish that someone would have said something to you that maybe wouldn't alter your journey, but would have, you know, opened up your eyes a little bit more?
So I guess one of the things I wish I would have heard or been told. So this might be kind of interesting because you might have to have a little context to it. But I wish I was told that I believe you, you are not crazy. And where this comes from is like ever since I was a child, I had like this spiritual side to me, that I grew up in a very conservative religious area, and so it's not very well accepted. So if you say, "Oh, I have, you know, had heard dead people talk to me, or I hear things at night, or things happen to me, or that like I still have like visions of things happening and this and that." I'm like, if somebody would have told me that that's okay, you're not crazy, those things are real, I think that would have been amazing to hear at that time in my life because it would have really changed my perspective of opening up to my spiritual side, I guess, more and like accepting and understanding that. And I think it would have influenced my horses a lot sooner too.
Hmm.
Because I didn't meet anybody who understood that side of me until I was like in my mid 20s. And that's where a lot of my journey really started and pushed through at that point. And that's when I started making a lot more changes in my life and kind of pursuing this other side of seeing my horses and doing other things with them and not seeing it as more of a relationship than just I just want to go out and ride you and do this or that, or you're just kind of at my bidding kind of thing. Um, that's that's probably the one thing I would love to have heard back then.
I can relate to that. And Amber knows that because I told her when I met her and we did our very first clinic that I hadn't cried in vulnerability ever in my adult life. And I was like, I do not cry. I have a lot of suppressed emotions. And she's like, don't worry, like, I'm gonna get you. And it was like this thing where I was like, I don't know. And I had never done one of her journeys before. And she like takes us down this journey and I'm like feeling it, I'm just like sitting with it. And then like she gets this part and she's like, "What did you need to hear as a kid?" And all of a sudden my mind was just like, "I believe you." And my whole body, like I was just like, "Oh my gosh." And my whole body was just like shaking and I was sobbing. And I was like, I cannot believe she got me, but I can really relate to that because and that's all our animals want too. They want to be seen, they want to be believed. Hey, this hurts. I'm communicating to you. Please believe me. So for a child who is really sensitive and really in tune, yeah, needing to be believed is so important. But it's cool to see how things have come full circle for you, and now you're, believing your animals and they're telling you, hey, I'm uncomfortable or hey, I'm capable of doing this. And because you are practicing believing them all the time, it's creating that language between the two of you. But yeah, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, Amber's gonna have something to say about that because that was the start of my entire journey with her.
I think that's like what, yeah, I think that's like true for so many people because you are born here so tapped in, and the home that you choose to come into and the family that you choose and the caretakers you choose to have, your little soul before you come, like you don't know that you've chosen that path, right? So you kind of start to feel like, oh gosh, like I'm just this I don't want to say victim, but you know what I mean. It's just like this was my circumstances, this is how I grew up. And then once you get old enough to realize like you chose all of it and you can look back and go, wait a minute, okay, I understand why I had to struggle in this way because now like this struggle that I had at this point in my life is literally my superpower now. And if I didn't have all of that, right? So um I think it, and that's the piece, right, of the ability to have deeper empathy for your horse, deeper understanding, and be more compassionate towards yourself when you're struggling. But the awareness thing is like, I just didn't know. I didn't know anything until I did, right? Like, I feel like I didn't. I feel like I always had this communication and connection with the animals because I couldn't connect with people. And I think that's like a lot of people's stories where it's like, I go here because they understand me, they hear me, they're not misunderstanding me, we're good. And then I feel like at one point I started to realize that I can control a lot of that. And then I went into this like, oh man, if I would have had this, if I would have had that. But then I realized if I wouldn't have had all of those things, like, then I wouldn't be able to feel what it feels like to be in that position. And I think that's why people try to get away from the quote unquote suffering or the hard things. And I'm like, ah, but that's why I never feel like when someone comes to me and they're telling me their story and they're in their shit, and I'm like, it really sucks, but it does. But like, it's going to be so delicious on the other side of it. And there's going to be so much goodness on the other side of it. But the awareness piece, there are so many people that are completely unaware of all things, right? And so just the fact that you can say, "Oh, my chest is tightening right now." Oh, and be like, "Wait a minute. I know exactly what's happening." Like the open communication between you and your body and your discernment and like the ability to like have that conversation with yourself is what I'm always encouraging people, like talk to yourself, talk to your body. There's like so much information that like can come through from that. So I think that that piece too is just like when you talked about that, I was like, oh, that's so good, to be able to go, wait, I feel this thing happening and I know what's happening and I know there's something I can do about it and I can call my power back in that way and reintegrate that back into your life. Like it's just such a superpower that I think it just goes highly underrated by people when they're like, "Oh, I caught myself." I'm like, "Oh, celebrate!" Like it's so exciting. Thank goodness. So I think that piece too on all of it, like the awareness that you have and your ability to take care of yourself in those moments is like the most the best part.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, it's not easy to like go through and be aware of those things because it does take time. It takes practice and it takes a lot of like you said, self-awareness. And like it's kind of funny when you say the animals say choose your hard because like I kind of say that to like my students all the time. And I'm like, I just, it's funny because I was just like, you grow up with these, basically, let's just call them for easy words, traumas or situations or whatever that you go through. And you can choose to be that victim or you can choose to grow through it and get through it and see the lessons from it on the outside. Because I was literally having that conversation yesterday about how it sucks to go through it. But like, all the lessons we were taught afterwards have really pushed you to change yourself and to see what do you really want from this life or what do you really want to manifest next or what do you really look for next and how can that be different than what you just had.
Yeah. So good. Is there anything else that you have on your heart that's burning to be released into the world?
I would just, I don't know. I think like we're all going through our stuff, we're all doing our stuff, but honestly, just keep with it and you can come out the other side. You just have to choose it. And
Yeah.
I encourage anybody to choose it because it could be so much better than it is now.
Yeah. Perfect. Shayleigh, do you have anything else?
Nope. I'm just reveling in the conversation. Glad that, your animals chose your words. This is a reminder for anybody listening that your animals really do listen to the words. There's all those naysayers out there that'll say animals don't even know their names. And I just watched a video the other day where this lady was like telling her dog to sit with different tones of her voice. And it's just so funny how that mindset can be so like absolute, like because my dog is listening to this tone of my voice, it doesn't like they don't really understand me. And it's like, oh, but it's so much more than that. So they really do feel into your words, some more than others. And this is just that little reminder and your reminder to choose your hard. So thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. And
Thanks.
we'll see you guys next month with our next member spotlight interview that we do. Thank you for being our first.
Yes.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right. See you guys later. Yay, that was good.
That was good. That was fun.
How do I
It was
stop?
cool to hear.